How important is the salience of an entity in a corpus of text? I want to bring this one up because I think it's something that SEOs don't really understand how we will go about measuring it, and they don't even know that it's important. So let's go with the is it important first. So measuring the salience of a topic of an article. So let's understand what that means. So salience means, how important is an entity in particular in an article. And for Google, it turns out to be quite important. Let's have a look at the ranking signals that Google has, and let's put salience in as a search here. And you'll see, I don't know how many times it's mentioned, 17 entries of the word salience. But let's go and have a look down here at some of these, particularly this one, salience. Google's calling it a score of the saliency or centrality, as they call it, of this entity to the document. Now, it's in a module called NLP, Natural Language Processing, and so it's clearly something that Google measures. And there's a couple of papers that Googlers, ex-Googlers have that talk about salience, but they were talking about a 1 or a 0. Is an entity a salient concept, or is it not a salient concept? I think that they've moved over, and very much have moved over, to the idea of a score between 0 and 1, of how important an entity is to a particular document. And that means that we've got to think about the entities and how important they are. And how might you measure that? Well, there's all sorts of ways you can measure it. You can say, has the topic or has the entity been mentioned in the title, for example? That would have a heavy weighting. Is it used in the first paragraph of the text? That might have a heavy weighting. You could say, well, when people are linking through to a particular article, is the context in which they're linking through important? And we think that will have an important factor on values as well. InLinks, however, kind of works on the content on the page itself, and then uses that to help you work out where you should be linking to other pages on the website as well. So I've taken this example of 6 weeks in New Zealand, and we've had a look at the competitors that are ranking for 6 weeks in New Zealand and the kind of topics that they're talking about. And we see that New Zealand is really important, travel is really important, Auckland is really important, guidebooks, etc. Now, what's interesting here is that we have this idea of salience for any of these entities. So these are the entities on the right hand side. These are the types of entities within here. We also check Google's as well. Google reports things like New Zealand being an important entity, and Auckland being an important entity. It doesn't specify whether travel is an important entity, because Google is not good at understanding generic entities like travel. But we think that they're really, really important. And it may be that Google just doesn't report them. But travel is central to the idea of 6 weeks in New Zealand. I think it's a central concept. Probably guidebooks are essential concepts, and they're real things. So understanding the right topics, the right entities that you need to have in your article is really, really important. And if you can just get that fingerprint right, and that relationship of entities and the right kind of proportion for your user, for your reader, then that reader will be lit up with emotion and excitement when they read the content. Salience is very, very measurable. It's measured by Google, it's measured by InLinks, and it is core to a human being understanding, or what the human being's understanding is of any piece of content. Hope that's helpful.